Hey guys, it's Dave and welcome back to the Weird Kid Show. This is part 2 of the CTHULHU monster bottle. And I started this thing last week, and when I got the sculpt done of the face, I was happy with it. I really liked it. But there was something eating at me about it. I couldn't put my finger on it, and so I texted the guys, Vic Springston from Monster Misfits and Keith from Cobwebs and Candlesticks, the trio of terror members, because we talk all day long, every day pretty much. And I shared what I was working on with them, and I said, yeah, but it's bothering me, something's missing. And right off the bat, Keith's like, you should put his wings on. And I was like, there you go, his wings. I completely forgot his little wings. So that's what I did, and I didn't do it on camera. It was an afterthought, and so I added his wings. Okay, and so how I did that was simple. I'm gonna show you. So I took some Sculpey and I flattened it out. You know, pancaked it out, made it real nice, and you know, I got it to the desired thickness and width, how big I wanted my wing. And so I looked at some reference material, and I took a sculpting tool and I cut out the shape of a wing. Okay, didn't do nothing to it yet. I just wanted a flat piece that had the shape of a wing in it. Okay, when I was happy with that, I took that as a pattern and I flipped it over onto another piece and I traced around it and cut out a second identical wing, and then I pressed it into the bottle and got it on there. And once I was happy with the positioning, I tied it in like here, how I've showed you with my finger. And then it was at that point in time I took the sculpting tool, I used the stylist and put some textures in the little ribs on the wings, and then I put some texture on the wing itself. So there we have, CTHULHU has his wings. Now, one thing I was having a problem with, and I shared this with you guys last weekend, is getting some crack in here. I put it a bit thin down at the bottom. I usually put it thicker. And so I made a decision. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put Sculpey over the entire bottom of this thing. And it's going to taper off and blend in to the bottle to make it thicker and stronger so that this won't happen anymore. Alright, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to tack this a little bit with some super glue to keep it in place. And I found super glue does hold up in the oven when you're carrying Sculpey. And so I'm going to do that now. I'm going to show you what I end up with, and then I'm going to pop it in the oven, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about what we're going to do next. Our CTHULHU. So thanks for being here, guys. Check this out. Welcome back. And so yeah, I took Sculpey and I smoothed it out, and I just covered the entire bottom and then tapered it over and then worked it in, blended in, and what the excess I had from the bottom I used to pack and fill in and reinforce the corners again. So as it stands uncured, there's no more cracks. That's not to say I couldn't have a crack during the baking process, but I think this is my go-to now. It just ties it all in. It makes it, because of my textures here, it makes it more uniform, and it also enabled me to put a little WK Weird Kid 21, and I put a little eye down there because it's an original. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to pop this in the oven at 275, and while that's cooking, we're going to talk about this stopper. So hang tight. Last week I asked you about your input on what I should do with the stopper, and I had gotten a lot of good suggestions, and I was actually torn because it was some very good suggestions. The two that stood out that tipped the scale was Keith from Cobwebs and Candlestick suggested some runes, which would have been cool, some symbols in there, and then somebody else had mentioned some kind of a crystal or something like that. So I went looking and digging through my drawers and stuff, and I found this, and I know that this is, I cannot tell you what this is. I probably could have told you at one point in time what this was. I know it's not onyx. I know it's not an Apache tear. It's got somewhat of a translucency to it, but so you rock hounds, if you know what this is, let me know. But what drew me to this is that it's like black, inky black, and it just made me think about the inky black darkness of the ocean's abyss, which is where Cthulhu would rise from once he was called. And so I thought, you know what, maybe I'll just try to mount it on here and then just kind of tie it in with the sculpt around it just for the top. So I'm going to play around with that. The bottle's in the oven, and when we come back I'll have this done. The bottle will be out of the oven, and we're going to be ready to paint this thing. So hang tight, guys, we're getting close to bringing this thing to life. See you in a second. Alright guys, and we're back, and everything's done. I filled in all the cracks and baked it. The bottom is still warm, it's pretty hot to touch. And then I just did this with the stopper. I put that stone on the top and put the Sculpey up around it, and then took a straight edge and then cut around the stone to even it out, and then just put some random like texture on here. Alright, so now this thing is ready to be painted. Alright, so I'm going to test fit this plunger because I know I got some Sculpey in there. Need to move it out of the way a little bit. So, alright, this is what we're going to have. But now comes the fun part. Now we're going to paint this thing. And what I think I'm going to do, I think I'm going to go with my base is going to be a dark gray. Alright, I'm going to paint the entire thing dark gray, and then I'm going to come back through and add some white to that gray, and then do a whole dry brush on that thing. But then we're going to do something separate to the Cthulhu itself, and maybe to some of this pattern up here. So I've already got some of this gray in my palette, my brush, and just I'm going to start coating it, getting the whole thing painted. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to come back, we're going to do a little bit of the dry brush of the gray, and then I'm going to go ahead and start tackling, show you what I'm going to use for colors on the Cthulhu itself. So, alright guys, hang tight. Thanks for sticking with me. See you here in a second. Alright guys, so yeah, pretty basic. Just took my brush, used a big chip brush, and just coated the entire thing. I even did the bottom. You know what? I know I put my initials and whatnot on there, but I am going to put something on there to pad it. So, but anyways, yeah, so it's all been coated. Now I'm going to take some of that same gray that I just based it in, and I'm going to take white, and I'm going to mix it in with that gray and make a much lighter gray. Okay, but this time I'm going to do a dry brush. Alright, so I'm going to do some here for you. And for this, because it's such a wide area to cover, I'm just going to use my big chip brush. Now I'm not too concerned, I don't really need too much on the Cthulhu himself, because he's going to be painted a green, you'll see. Alright, so just dry brushing the bottle itself to give it some texture, lighten it up and highlight everything. I'm liking that. It's popping. Alright, so it's very cut and dry. So I'm going to work on this a little bit and then come back and we're going to tackle the Cthulhu himself with some green. So hang tight, guys. Alright guys, so we got it all dry brushed. Alright, so like I said, I used a flat dark gray for the base, and then I dry brushed the whole thing white, and I even added a little bit more white after, and then just did a dusting. And then I went ahead and cleaned all the paint off. That's the thing, if you got a smooth stone, don't worry about painting over it, because it's easy to clean it up after. So yeah, so now we're going to start adding some colors to this bad boy. And I was thinking I wanted to start with, I think I'm going to use this. This is called Arbor Green, and this is an apple barrel product. And I'm going to go ahead and dry brush that onto the Cthulhu and then onto the texture here, just to give it some extra contrast on the plunger. So let me get some in there. It's dark, so I might have to do several layers of dry brushing to build it up and soften it up. Otherwise it's gonna be too dark. So I got me some here. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and dry brush. Still want some of that gray coming through. Now this is gonna be good for the shadows, but it's really, really gonna pop once we come back through and start putting lighter shades on top of this. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to put some up here. Then I'm going to come back, we're going to lighten it up. I'm going to dry brush some of that for you so you can see how that looks. And we're going to keep going. And we're almost done. We just got to paint the Cthulhu here and then his eyes. So we're going to figure out what we're going to do there. So hang tight, guys. Alright guys, so we're back. And I went ahead and painted the whole thing a base color. Now, I was going to dry brush it on there, but I didn't like how the light gray was coming through, so I painted the whole thing this arbor green and to use for the shadows. And then I went and took some white and I added it and brought this green up to a real light shade. In fact, I got some on my brush here. And now with that, I'm going to go ahead and start dry brushing this thing, which is really going to make it pop and come to life. And then I might even add some, even a little bit more white and just dust it after. But we're going to see how it looks once this whole thing has been dry brushed. So that's how it's starting to look now. So he's coming alive. Alright, so I'm going to keep working on this. I'm going to dry brush this whole thing. And then we're going to come back and yeah, we're getting close to being done now. So I'm going to wrap this thing up. So I hope you like it, guys. I hope you try something like this. Doesn't have to be this, just as long as you get a bottle and put some Sculpey on it, and if you want, look at some reference material, or just start playing around with some clay and come up with your own vision or your own creature. There's no wrong way. So hang tight, guys. Alright guys, we're back and I'm done. Okay, so yeah, I just after I painted it that dark green, I started adding white to the green and dry brushed it and just kept going later and later and making the dusting finer and finer as I went on. Alright, so there we have it, our Cthulhu bottle. Last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put some felt on the bottom, and I'm going to go ahead and clear coat this whole thing to give it some added protection. So there we have it. Yeah, this was a fun one, and yeah, it's a cool little H.P. Lovecraft inspired piece. So what would happen if you drank this? What would happen to you? What kind of, would you get a magical power, or would you call Cthulhu from the depths of the abyss? Who knows? Anyways, like I said, this is another example of stuff that you can do using glass bottles and Sculpey and paint. It's pretty cut and dry, and there's so many different combinations that you can do. I think next week I'm gonna do another bottle, but this time I'm gonna do something that doesn't require Sculpey or any kind of clay. So you'll have to see next week and tune in for that. So anyways guys, please like and subscribe and hit the bell, and it'll notify you when I upload future videos. If you haven't done so, check out my brothers, Keith from Cobwebs and Candlesticks and Vic Springston from Monster Misfits. And until next time guys, I appreciate you so much. Peace.